A new frontier of science is looking to create life from the other side of the mirror. That's right, the thing looking back in your reflection might one day not be you at all. It might be an echo of an entirely different world, another life. Some say this is the latest in cutting-edge science, and it's called mirror life. But what is it? Is mirror life the next scientific marvel with concerns simply being blown out of proportion? Or is it truly the existential threat to all life on Earth that you've never heard of? Join me as we unravel these questions and more, and enter the Codex Legendarium. I'm Shelby Melanson. When you look in the mirror and raise your hand, your reflection does too. You move around, and it performs a perfect imitation. But something doesn't feel right. The corners of your mouth tighten and your eyes widen in fear, but the reflections don't. Instead, its face widens into a slow, toothy grin. The idea that on one side is a world that's bright, open, familiar, and normal, but stepping through the looking glass reveals its sinister reflection. A world turned upside down, twisted, and home to terrifying residents just waiting to get out. Before we can explain mirror life, we need a quick chemistry lesson here. Stay with me, I promise you want to hear this. Hold out your hands, palms facing away from you. What do you see? 2 palms, probably 10 fingers, but take a closer look. Both hands are the same, except they're not. No matter how hard you try, you can't superimpose them. Turn them and twist them as you may, it's impossible for all physical features of the hands to match up exactly. And swapping your right hand onto your left arm would leave you with a backwards bone structure and your thumb pointing the wrong way. The reason? Your hands are mirror images of each other. And they're the best example of something in chemistry that we call chirality, to the extent that the word actually comes from the Greek word for hand. The term is used to describe the configurations of certain molecules, and just like your right hand, they're not symmetrical. If you held up a mirror to look at the reflected structure of that molecule, the two wouldn't fit. And because of that, they're 2 different molecules entirely. Now, not all molecules are chiral. Some are achiral, meaning they have symmetry and can be superimposed. For example, a single molecule of water. Another example you've probably heard of, benzene, a highly flammable liquid that's mostly responsible for that super distinct smell of gasoline when you're filling up your tank. Here's where it gets interesting. If you look at the absolute most fundamental building blocks of life, the molecular structures that make up all known living biological creatures, every single one of them is chiral. DNA and RNA carry our genetic code, and they're made up of exclusively right-handed molecules called nucleotides, while proteins made up of amino acids are left-handed. Only. We can thank French chemist Louis Pasteur for this discovery back in 1848, though you might know his name as the guy who discovered germ theory, that, diseases are caused by microorganisms, and for inventing pasteurization. Back to homochirality. It may not sound like a big deal if you don't work in a lab, but this actually is so bizarre and so little understood that it's considered one of the greatest mysteries of life on Earth, and how living organisms came to be. There are a number of studies that came out in recent years proposing different solutions, but the truth is, no one really knows for sure. Though, fun fact, some scientists theorize this could actually be different if we were to find bacteria on other planets. Meaning, proteins might be right-handed on other worlds instead of left-handed like on ours. Here's where we get to the horror movie-esque dystopian reality. If all DNA is right-handed and left-handed versions don't exist naturally in the world, what would happen if someone tried to artificially create left-handed DNA? Enter mirror life, a synthetic life form incompatible with all other life on Earth. Okay, why is that a problem? Think about what happens when you introduce an invasive plant or animal species into an environment. The reason it's invasive is because it has no natural predators. Because the local animal populations have never seen anything like it before, they haven't grown to recognize it as prey. And one of the most famous cases of this happened back in the 1930s when Australia introduced exactly 102 cane toads to basically put a dent in a local beetle population that was destroying sugarcane crops. Now, these things can grow to be the size of dinner plates and weigh up to 4.5 pounds, mind you. And these particular toads enjoyed themselves a little bit more than anyone expected. And since then, they've spread all over the country, become pests themselves, and now number around 200 million. The government has spent more than 15 million USD to eradicate them as of 2017 alone. Now, imagine an invasive species of bacteria. Something so small that it's effectively invisible and, in the right conditions, can duplicate itself every half hour. It could spread worldwide and find its way into anything and everything, and not a single living thing on the planet would have an immune system capable of recognizing it or destroying it. And the same goes for antibiotics and digestive enzymes too. The best part? How it would act is completely unpredictable. We're talking about something that could very literally spell doom for all life on Earth. Seriously. This is the exact point made in a paper published last year in the journal Science. It's 299 pages long, co-authored by almost 40 scientists, including 2 Nobel laureates, by the way, and sparked apocalyptic, nightmarish-sounding headlines last year. Titles like, "Scientists fear microscopic mirror life could wipe out humanity," and "Unprecedented risk to life on Earth. Scientists call for halt on mirror life microbe research." And even though the media does in fact tend to blow things out of proportion, shocking, I know, this time the fears are real. Here's what just one of the scientists on the project had to say. Quote, "Mirror bacteria would likely invade many human, animal, and plant immune system responses, and each case would cause lethal infections that would spread without check." The authors urge all scientists worldwide to halt all research trying to create mirror bacteria, push to stop all funding of related research, and explicitly write, quote, "Unless compelling evidence emerges that mirror life would not pose extraordinary dangers, we believe that mirror bacteria and other mirror organisms, even those engineered with biocontainment measures, should not be created." This is so serious that even scientists who had been working on mirror life before have come out denouncing it, like Dr. Kate Adamala from the University of Minnesota, who co-authored this report. Okay, that's all super intense. So why would anyone want to do this in the first place, given those risks? To play devil's advocate here, the argument for mirror life has a lot to do with healthcare. The way that some medicines work, especially the ones made out of proteins or nucleic acids, our bodies tend to break them down very quickly, in minutes in some cases. That makes it extremely difficult to treat certain chronic illnesses. And the case for mirror life is that if medicines made out of mirror image proteins would stick around in the body for much, much longer, in theory, they could create a cost-effective, long-term treatment. It's also worth noting that despite the severe warning from the paper, the majority of co-authors want research creating mirror biomolecules to continue, specifically for the purpose of creating treatments and diagnostics without the risks of creating actual mirror life. But that begs the question, where is the line in the sand? Right now, this is all theoretical. But based on where the technology is now, we're still decades away from even the possibility of creating mirror life. That said, many of the top minds in the field are all saying the same thing. The time to figure out that line in the sand is now, before we have this technology. When I was researching for this episode, I couldn't help but be reminded of what I might call the cultural equivalent to mirror life. It's called subversion. You'll most likely hear the word described as a way to undermine society, social structure, or the morality of a people. And while it has a far longer and darker history than you might imagine, for the purpose of this discussion, it's just like the evil twin on the other side of the mirror. Something that maybe looks the same, that takes hold only after the life it was made in the image of is eliminated. Or maybe the evil twin that does the eliminating itself. Once the original twin is gone, the subverted mirror version takes over and fills the same gap. But at its core, it's twisted and unnatural, something that religious believers or spiritual practitioners might say goes against goodness or goes against God. The line of thinking reminded me of some ancient wisdom, stories from hundreds, if not thousands of years ago that warn us about the dangers of blindly rushing towards what appears to be progress, but in reality might have dire consequences. First of all, Japanese folklore specifically talks about monsters in the mirror. They're considered yokai, or spirits, like this one in a painting from 1784. But it goes much deeper. The myth of Icarus is one of the most famous tales of Greek mythology, and the most well-known version dates all the way back to the year 8 AD. It tells the story of how Icarus and his father Daedalus were imprisoned in a tower after helping a Greek hero kill a minotaur and escape a labyrinth. But Daedalus was an inventor, and he came up with an ingenious escape plan. Build 2 pairs of wings glued together with wax, jump out the window, and fly to freedom. But Daedalus warned his son that flying too high and close to the sun, or too low and close to the ocean, would destroy the wings. Unfortunately, Icarus did not heed this warning. He lost himself in the joys of soaring skyward, melted the wax from his wings, and plummeted to his death. A story from the Old Testament, you've probably heard this one already, describes Adam and Eve suffering a similar fate. The first man and first woman lived in purity in the Garden of Eden, until one day they were tempted to eat the forbidden fruit from the Tree of Knowledge. When they caved in, they lost their innocence and were banished from paradise. Finally, a piece of wisdom from one of China's 8 Taoist immortals. And to me, this one is the most telling of all. Zhong Gua Lao is one of China's most famous historical figures, and he was a real person according to an ancient record called the Old Book of Tang. He was most famous for riding around the countryside on his donkey, backwards. And as is true for a lot of Taoist wisdom, spiritual teachers imparted their messages in roundabout ways. His sitting atop his donkey backwards was a symbolic gesture of rejecting modern progress in favor of gaining spiritual and moral growth. He discovered that true self-improvement could actually be found by embracing the wisdom of what came before, aka traditional thinking, instead of charging forwards, perhaps, without thinking about the consequences. The good news is, mirror life isn't going to be invading your neighborhood or your immune system anytime soon. That said, the reaction from the scientific community, plus the fears echoed by the media, and our continued willingness to push boundaries in the face of consequences that we may not understand, perhaps warrants stopping to think for a minute. It's one thing to make a decision that impacts yourself. It's another to make a decision that could impact the entire human population, not to mention every plant and animal on Earth. No matter whether you see this kind of scientific discovery as an ingenious breakthrough and something to strive for, or lean more towards the cultural warnings of subversion and storytelling, I personally find a lot of wisdom in ideas like look before you leap, and measure twice, cut once. And if we do, we might just be able to find a brighter path towards better health, safely for us all. What do you think about mirror life? Could it become a healthcare breakthrough, or do the risks outweigh the potential rewards? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and if you have an idea for something you'd like to see a future episode on, let me know. And of course, if you enjoyed this deep dive into mysteries, myths, culture, and science, drop us a like and subscribe and share this video. Until next time, stay curious. Thank you.